Now, one thing we haven't observed yet is how we can use the else keyword with for loops and while loops. Now, we've seen it with conditional statements, but not with loops. Now, a for loop can have an optional else block as well. Now, the else part is executed if all of the items in the sequence have been iterated over. In other words, there are no more items to iterate through. For example, if I were to type for I in a list of integers from 1 to 5, and then simply print I, underneath this statement, I can then include an else block. And for this example, we can print no more numbers in list. When I run this code, you can see that when the items in the list have been printed, we then execute the else statement. So the else statement is always executed once the iteration of the for loop is complete. Now, if we use the break keyword to stop a for loop, the else part is then ignored. So let's see an example where we have a shopping list and we want to check if a particular item is in the list. So I'll start by creating a variable called find_item, and we'll set this equal to apples. I will then create a shopping list variable, and in this list we'll have the items apples, grapes, butter, and mustard. So I may want to do something like this. For item in shopping list, then check to see if the item stored in the find_item variable is equal to the item, i.e. the value stored in item on each iteration of shopping list. If this condition evaluates to true, I want to print out the name of the item that's stored in the variable, and then plus is on the shopping list. After this statement, I will then include an else block, and I will print out you do not have this item on the list. So if I run this code, because we can see that apples is in the list, the condition will evaluate to true and will print out apples is on the shopping list. Now, once the iteration has complete, we will also print out the else block. So you can see we also print out you do not have this item on the list. But if after the print item is on the shopping list, we put the break keyword and we exit the for loop in its entirety, the else block is no longer executed, which in this example is exactly what we want. If I were to change find_item to be the string bread, you can see that the if statement will always evaluate to false. We therefore do not print that the item is on the shopping list, and because we do not break out of this for loop, the else block is then printed. Okay, so hopefully the else statement when used with for loops is easy to understand. And as with for loops, while loops can also have an optional else block, which is executed if the condition in the while loop evaluates to false. Now, the while loop can be terminated with a break statement as well, as we've seen, and when we do break out of the loop, the else part is then ignored. Hence, a while loop's else part runs if no break occurs, and the while loop's test expression is false. So keep this syntax in your toolbox in case a use case ever crops up. Remember, it will always be executed after the for or while loop iteration has completed. It won't, however, get executed if you break out of the loop with the break keyword.